Are you sick of waking up with anxiety and regret after drinking? I get it. I was a weekend binge drinker, fooling myself into believing I was detoxing all week, only to retox every weekend and live completely outside of alignment with my values. As a former personal trainer who cared about health, that disconnect pushed me to finally make a change. I'm Maureen Bankovich, and this is Sober Fit Life, a podcast where we get real about alcohol, share powerful stories, and learn from wellness experts so you can thrive physically, mentally, and emotionally. Let's get sober fit. Have you ever Googled, "Am I an alcoholic?" Me too. And here's the thing, it's not a helpful question. Those quizzes just slap on a label. Yes, you are. No, you're not. But what if it's not about the label and more about how drinking actually makes you feel? That's why I created Am I Drinking Too Much? It's the quiz I wish had existed when I was searching. No scare tactics, no rock bottom required. You'll get your results and a free guide that explains gray area drinking, plus 3 science-backed strategies to reduce or interrupt cravings. Take it at soberfitchick.com/MI. That's MI, as in, am I drinking too much? soberfitchick.com/MI. I am so excited today. I have a guest on that I've been wanting to meet in person, who's inspired me quite a bit. And her name is Katy Sepi. Katy is the founder of the Childless Collective, which is an organization that I just found out about in the last year, dedicated to creating supportive communities for individuals who are childless, not by choice or circumstance. With a background in community organizing, Katy has built a space where childless people can connect, access support, and share their experiences. Through her work, she addresses the common themes of grief, loss, and identity struggles that many in the childless community face. Katy's efforts provide a beacon of hope and solidarity, helping people navigate their journeys with understanding and compassion. So with all that, I want to welcome you, Katy, to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to talk to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I said to Katy before we started recording, I bet you were wondering why I asked you on your Sober Fit Life podcast. And as many of you know, if you've listened to my earlier episodes, my drinking story actually started around my grief around not being able to have children. And it was all very subconscious then. I didn't understand my grief. I didn't know I could grieve, and I didn't know how to express it because everyone around me my friends were all having children and building families, and nobody really understood what I was going through. So I sort of developed this persona as a party girl, someone who didn't care, who was carefree. And I'd be your friend you could go out with when you got a babysitter and drink on the weekends. But really, I was really in a lot of pain. I was really pretty sad for a decade, just not understanding. And then, of course, over time, when you drink like that, I was a binge drinker, but when you drink over time and tie it to grief or sadness, you would develop a level of addiction, which I didn't understand. But as many of you know, I'm almost 3 years now alcohol free. And having removed that substance from my life, I can look back on that decade and realize I did not grieve. I did not go through the grief process, and I didn't understand that I was allowed to. So when I first found Katy, it was through a book called The Unexpected Life by Jody Day, who is one of the original founders of this whole movement. And I'm going to let Katy explain how she then became the founder of the Childless Collective and let her take it from there. And Katy, would you share your story of how you ended up where you are now?
Yeah, sure. Where to start? Well, I came to be childless through infertility was kind of my path to, what led me here. And in 2017, I ended up having a hysterectomy, and that was kind of the end of my trying to pursue parenthood. It was kind of okay, I'm not having kids. What does that mean for me? And
Right.
I just felt really lonely. Like it was something that I didn't really have people around that I felt like I could just fully like talk to about what I was going through and that really understood it and could meet me the way that I needed them to. And so I started originally with a blog and an Instagram account that was called Chasing Creation. And I did a lot through that name for about 4 years, where I hosted a lot of online events to try to bring people together, and I hosted monthly peer support groups. And that's also where I got the idea to host the first Childless Collective Summit. And so I hosted my first summit 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Yeah, 4 years ago, and have been hosting those annually, which has been really fun, a nice way to bring kind of a lot of people in the childless community together all at once. And then 2 years ago, I heard from Jody Day, who had started, Gateway Women and was running the Gateway Women online community. And she asked if that was something that I wanted to kind of take over as host on, because she had some other projects she was wanting to focus on. So that shift happened about 2 years ago. And that's what kind of brought me from doing my own projects part-time in the childless community to having this be now my full-time work that I do for the last 2 years of just creating different events and ways for people to connect and find community, kind of all under this umbrella of the Childless Collective.
That's incredible. You started out with this personal blog and then you end up running the Childless Collective. Can you tell people how many women, or I don't know, are there men too in the Childless Collective?
So the Childless Collective is the name that I use for like all the work that I do within the childless community. So some things that I do are like events that are open to anyone. They're open to the public. So for example, the summits that I've run have had a combined attendance of over 8,500 people who have attended those the last few years. And that has been a mix of all genders and circumstances that bring you to being childless. Those, again, are open to the public. So really, it's a wide range. And then the Childless Collective online community, which is a private, closed community. That one, we have about 750-ish members there right now, and it's open to women and non-binary people.
And these are people all over the world, I've discovered from getting on here.
Yes, and I think because Jody Day started that originally under Gateway Women, she's in the UK, so I think that it started with a lot of UK members, although there have always been, I think, a lot of members in the US, and then also we'll get people from other countries too. So yeah, it is a pretty wide, diverse range of people that we get there, which is really fun.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, getting into that group and realizing there were women all over the world like me I can't explain the feeling I had that I finally wasn't alone. And that's why this is a passion project for me to get this word out, because I think there are a lot of women like me who are masking their grief, camouflaging their grief, whether it's with alcohol or some other numbing type of behavior or unhealthy coping mechanism. And I wanted to ask, do you hear that or see that in your experience with people saying maybe for years they didn't deal with this and now they're figuring out how to through your collective?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually really common for a lot of reasons. I think one is that we don't always recognize, like you said, that it's something that needs our attention or that we need to really tend to. And if we do recognize it, we don't always know how to. So I know with me, I was clearly grieving, once I had a name for it and I could look up, what does grieving look like? It seems so obvious in retrospect that I was grieving. But at the time, I didn't have a name for it. I just knew that, I was crying a lot and just felt a lack of desire to do things I normally find enjoyment in, and just, really struggling, disconnecting from people that I loved and not wanting to be around anyone. Like, there were these things that were showing up, but I think for me, because I went through infertility, it was easy to kind of put it into something like, well, it's because of this that I'm feeling this way. But I still didn't really understand it completely or know how to process it. And, I think especially for people who maybe there's not, my hysterectomy was like such a final, like, this is it. I have like a date that is the end of my pursuing parenthood journey. And I think for a lot of people that, if you are childless due to being single, or, there's so many other reasons where it may not be this hard date of like, this is the day. And so I think then too, it might be a little bit harder to kind of pinpoint and process where those feelings are coming from and connect them to being childless. But I think for a lot of people, it's very common when people come into the community and are introducing themselves that I've heard people say, this is the first time where I've ever spoken this out loud. Like, I've never told anyone that I'm childless not by choice, or that this is something that I'm grieving. And, maybe their friends and family think that they are maybe child free by choice, like they didn't want kids, or maybe they just haven't really thought about it much at all. But I think for a lot of people, that grief ends up being very isolated and something that a lot of people are processing internally and don't really show to other people, and maybe not even fully show to themselves. So
Yeah, let's talk about those terms, because as I said, for me, it was between my almost 30s and 40s. I had not heard the term childless not by choice or circumstance. And therefore, for me, there was a lot of like guilt and shame, or something's wrong with me. I'm less than, I'm not like other women. And even other people don't know how to respond to you. They're like, keep trying, don't try so hard. Maybe you shouldn't work out. Maybe, all kinds of advice people offer you, well-meaning, and some just really ignorant. Right. So, but
yeah,
I think having that vocabulary is just so freeing. And I did a little kind of 3-day workshop during Mother's Day, and I was amazed at women who got back to me and said, I'd never heard that childless not by choice. I didn't know what to call
yeah,
myself. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think the labels can be tricky because I personally don't think that we have enough terminology to really describe our situations. And I use childless in the work that I do with Childless Collective, and I see it as a term that can help to bring people together in terms of like, if someone's searching for community or to connect with others who've experienced this, that is kind of like the standard term that people use. But I actually don't know anyone that likes that as a term. So there's, I don't use it personally. Like, if someone asks me if I have kids or is wanting me to talk about my situation, I'll usually I don't really like to put a label on it. I'll say, I wanted kids and I couldn't have them.
Yeah.
So for me, the importance of the labels is that they allow us to find each other. And so when I'm hosting events or with the community, I really wanted it to have a name that people could use to find each other. If either, you're Googling, or you're looking for something, that's often the word that will first get used, even if it's one that not everybody loves. And then of course there's child free, which some people in the community, people who wanted kids and couldn't have them, will use the term child free as well. But if you're looking kind of at the like more standard definition, it usually applies to people who chose not to have kids. It was their first choice. And so there's a lot of conversation within the communities of who gets to use what label and who does it apply to and what does it mean. So I think it can get really nuanced, and there's a lot of conversations, I think, happening around the labels. To me, I feel like for people personally, if you feel like you need a label attached to it, use what you're comfortable with and what works for you. I don't think that those two, child free and childless labels, there's so many situations that I feel like don't neatly fit into those categories of didn't want, couldn't have. There's a lot of complicated experiences that we have and complicated feelings, and not everything fits so tidily. But I guess like the short version of this, I would say, is that I don't think we have enough terminology yet. I think that these conversations will keep evolving, and maybe we'll develop language around it that feels like more of a fit for people. But for right now, I use childless in my work as a way to for us to find each other, really, is what I see as a purpose.
I actually found a lot of freedom in it. instead of going, how much do I tell them? What do I say? I wanted them. I couldn't have them. I tried to adopt. I
Yeah.
tried IVF. Do I go into that? Do I not? Instead, I just tried it out when I heard the term. I tried it out on people and said, I'm childless, not by choice. And people went, wait a minute, what is that? And I
Yeah.
thought it was a way to enlighten people without me going through all this inner turmoil. So I found it very freeing. It reminds me of in the alcohol community, people who are stopping alcohol, do they need to label themselves an alcoholic, or are they just saying, I want to take a break from alcohol? And it's really, I
Yeah.
think, whatever you find the most comfort in, whatever
Yep.
works for you. But joining your community, I then also heard another term, childless by circumstance. And that was enlightening to me because I had only known about my own path of infertility and failed adoption. And there's this whole
Mm-hmm.
other, as you said, spectrum of people who, for whatever reason, it could have been physical, timing, partners didn't work out, all kinds of things that women all of a sudden find themselves in the same situation as me for different reasons. And you, childless.
Yeah. There's such a wide like amount of reasons that people who want kids end up not having them, and that's something that I've really learned over the last 7 years, just getting to meet so many different people within the community and hearing so many different stories, is that um, it is a very, yeah, it's kind of a wide tent community, and
Yes.
there are things that are different throughout our experiences. And then there are certain things I think that a lot of us kind of share in common too, and how we navigate the world and some of the ways that the world might react to us, and some of the things that we experience. There's like those commonalities, and then there are a lot of things that make each person's journey unique too.
Yeah, and that's what I love about what you did inside of the collective. So you've got the whole big community, and then you can actually look in there and find subgroups. Maybe you have more an affinity to one group or another. I found people in my area, which was really cool. And also, I joined a Christian group. But I know there's
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of groups in there, like LGBTQ, different nationalities. It's like you've really thought of everything for so that people can then find their sub groups. We can relate to the whole community and then like break it down even further.
Yeah, I mean, so the kind of format of the community was really, I have to give credit to Jody there, because a lot of what exists now is the structure that she kind of put in place there. But yeah, I agree, it works really well. I think that having the kind of shared space for everybody to have a place to connect and talk about the things that we share in common, and then also having those kind of more private spaces of the subgroups for people to connect around different experiences that they've had, or different identities, or interests. It's really
Mhm.
nice to be able to have those kind of smaller groups to have those discussions too. So
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. And for me, what I realized through therapy and not drinking, and then reading Jody's book and some others, is it wasn't so much not being able to have children. That was certainly hard, but the loss of identity, like, well,
mm,
who am I and who am I going to be? And
yeah,
how do I now fit into this world of mother centric? What does Jody call it? Thinking the term
pronatalism.
pronatalism. There's another term I learned.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is such a big issue, I think, for so many. Like, who am I now? And how do
yeah.
you deal with that in the community?
I mean, I think that's a huge one that comes up, and I think, for me, when I had to reckon with the fact that I wasn't going to have kids, like I knew that that was going to be maybe the hardest thing that I've ever had to deal with and
Mhm.
process on my own. And I think the part that I really wasn't expecting was how much like societal factors influence that,
Mhm.
like having to unpack things that I've been told my whole life by people around me, and what, like, those messages that I was getting from society about what it meant to be a mom or not a mom, and what that meant about me and my place within the world or within society, and just um, the constantness of having to respond to it. Like, at the last summit, we had a panel on identity, and one of the things that came up was, well, why do we have to think so much about something that actually isn't a part of our identity in the sense that like we're not a mom, so it's like the absence of something, but yet we still have to figure out our identity around motherhood or non-motherhood. And a lot of it is because you're so confronted with all the time. Like if you are of childbearing age, especially once you get into like your 30s and 40s, there's just like an expectation that you have
Mhm.
kids. And so it's often like the first question you get asked if you meet someone new, or when you go to different events, like things are going to focus around a
Absolutely.
lot of times the kids, like a lot of kid centric stuff, or conversations with, if you're in a group of women, a lot of times the conversation is going to go to kids. So I think that's
And
the
then
part that's
stay
really
there for like
off.
an hour too. Like
Yeah, that's
stay there. And
yes, and
you
that's
ask all the polite questions and you try to be a part of it, but when it keeps going, and that's when I think I'd be like, another drink, please, because
right.
I didn't know how to
Yeah,
continue to participate with a smile on my face.
yeah,
It was really a struggle. So I think that identity question is
mm,
huge, and that's what you offer by people joining the collective and seeing other women like themselves. They're like, oh, I do have a place. I do have sisters. I'm not alone, and I
yeah.
think that's just massive benefit. And then I also wanted to ask you about disenfranchised grief, which was another one that just was like mind blowing for me. I'm like, that's why I didn't understand my own grief, because
Yeah.
if someone has a baby that passes away, which is terrible, or my father passed away, or a pet passes away, there's a tangible loss and people see it and identify it. But when you had maybe a couple months, weeks, or even just the idea in your head that you were going to have a baby and it never came to fruition, you're grieving something that other people can't understand because it wasn't tangible to them. And
Mhm.
I didn't know how to label it. So I thought, well, what's wrong with you? Get over it. Just like everybody else kind of felt. But that
Yeah.
disenfranchised grief term was like, oh, okay. So could you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I think I first heard this term from Jody Day as
Mm-hmm.
well, in the context of being childless, and then looked into some of the kind of psychologists who kind of coined the term, and where it came from. But yeah, so disenfranchised grief is basically a grief that isn't kind of widely understood or acknowledged by society. So I think this definitely comes up within the childless community of just, like you said, people having a hard time really wrapping their heads around how big of a loss this can be for us if it's something that, like you said, it's not something we had that then got taken away or that we lost.
Right.
It's the loss of a dream. It's a loss of
Mm-hmm.
the hopes that you have for your future. It's a loss of that identity that you hope to hold in the future. And those are a bit more abstract. And so I think, it's common for maybe people to not fully understand or treat it the same way as they would maybe more so like tangible type of loss. And I think, I've heard a lot of people who have said that, maybe people around them are supportive, but they don't seem to understand just how long it can impact them, that it's kind of like it can be a lifelong grief, and that it's
Absolutely.
going to come up around certain times, and that there's an expectation like, oh, aren't you over this already? And
Yes.
that they don't really understand why certain things may bring up those emotions and those feelings of grief.
Yeah, that's another thing to discuss is holidays, certainly Mother's Day, Christmas, it's just so family centric, um,
Mm-hmm.
commercials, all of that. And then even our different stages of life, as my friends obviously all first got pregnant, that was hard. And then, first day of school, all these kind of transitions and life changing moments, we don't get to be part of that club.
Yeah.
And you're sort of standing on the outside looking in and trying to figure out how to respond, how to react. You can always be the aunt, or
Mm-hmm.
the friend, but it's never quite the same. And knowing that can even hit you all the way up to like now, like I said, I'm almost 59, and certainly a lot of my friends are becoming grandparents now. And so then you go
Yeah.
through the sort of loss again at all these different stages.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And I think that you definitely see that within the online community, within the Childless Collective of, you know, people sharing those moments that are really difficult for them and how
Mm-hmm.
that changes across the lifespan. Um, and, hearing from a lot of people who will say, I kind of felt like I had gotten through the worst of my grief, and then I was doing really well for a while, and then all my friends started having grandkids, and then it was like this new thing that I wasn't expecting of like, now I have this like kind of new set of circumstances to have to deal with that's bringing everything up again. So yeah, I think like you said too, a lot of our rituals and ceremonies and with holidays or with just life milestones, a lot of those are centered around kids, and so it can be hard to feel like you can't fully participate or aren't fully accepted, or that those kind of traditions that we have like don't apply to you. And so I think that's where that society piece comes in, right? Of these expectations, and you kind of just feeling like you don't quite fit into them. And so I think that's where having community and being around others who understand what you're going through can be really helpful, because we'll have conversations about, well, let's talk about how we can maybe like adapt some of the traditions that you love around holidays so that they're a better fit for you and what your life looks like right now. And how can you build in some support that you may not get on a really hard day like Christmas or Mother's Day. So we try to be really aware of those things within the community and build in some extra support around those days, and have conversations about, how do we kind of reclaim some of these things so that we can feel joy in them, and that we can navigate maybe some of the more awkward social aspects, or the parts that make us feel left out. Like, are there things we could adjust or change that would help with that? So it's kind of hard, because I think it would be nice if the world could change and be more acknowledging, and it's so ingrained that I don't see that happening anytime soon. So a lot of, I think, the for me, it's like, how can we try to make adjustments or small changes that will help us kind of navigate the world in an easier way, knowing
Yeah.
it's not really set up for us.
I love that though, because you help people reframe and have a mind shift if they can around certain things and kind of work together. And you always put out posts like, so what's everybody doing this weekend? Or, you kind of get a chat going. And I think that's great. As Brene Brown says, vulnerability kills shame. So when we come together and we share our pain and our struggles, and realize we're not alone, that's just, it makes all the difference in the world. So what you're doing is is trying to change, the narrative, and help make people more aware.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely doing my best. I just feel like it's harder to break through to like people who aren't already childless, like it's hard to get people to care, I think, in a substantive way where they actually really want to get it. And so yeah, it's hard, I think, to have those conversations outside of the community with just like general public trying to raise awareness, but I do try.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but it's not. What it's nice is you can go back into the community, get your sort of filled up, and you are more fortified to go back out there, let's say, and deal with some of the you know questions and things that happen, or the feeling of not fitting in, because you have a group of women that get you. And
Yeah,
I
for
wanted to
sure.
share with you along those lines. The first time I got on one of your online summits, and I got on a Zoom group. There were about 6 other women. I couldn't speak. I couldn't speak at first, because I'm like, oh my gosh, there's 6 other women like me. And even now, when I think of it, I'm brought to tears, because that's just so important. So I hope to help you get this message out to younger women who are struggling with this, that they don't have to be alone and isolate or numb like I did, and hide their feelings. There is a group, and it's called the Childless Collective with Katy Sepi. And I wanted to know if you would talk a little bit about some of the summits you have. You even had a live summit for the first time. So maybe you could share what that looks like, so people know how they can participate and join.
Yeah, for sure. So, my summits are going to be on hiatus for a while because I love doing them, and I also don't have I haven't found a way to make them sustainable. They are so much work and money to put on, and I haven't really found a way to make them like viable to continue. So I'm definitely putting a pause on them for a while, probably not indefinitely, but I need a little bit of time from them. But they have been really incredible. So I've hosted 3 online summits. They have been like virtual events over a few days, and they typically I'll bring between like, I think somewhere between like 25 and 40 speakers together. So that we really cover like a wide range of topics related to being childless and different perspectives, different experiences. And then I'll usually host some events too, like some kind of socializing, and we'll do like an online community during those online events too. So those have been really cool. And like I said, it's brought together like a combined 8,500 attendees and over 100 speakers. So to me, those are something I'm really proud of as a way to just have a few days during the year that like so many in our community can come together for that support, not just with like the attendees, but also the speakers, because I always say like, you know, it's so important to find people who can talk about this in a way that resonates with you. And so I love being able to like hear who's out there talking about this and invite them to come speak so that they can find their people, and I can help to just let people know that like there's more than just the Childless Collective out there for support too. Like there's so many people out here doing really good work and that you can find and connect with to help support you. The first in-person summit was really cool. It happened in April of this year, and we brought together almost 100 people in Charleston, South Carolina. And it was 2 days of kind of more conference style stuff. And then the third day, I just rented a big beach pavilion and we had a beach day. Fun. And it was super fun. It's something I've been dreaming about for just years. And it, like you said, being on like a Zoom call with other people where like, you know, that everyone in the room is also like childless is a very like, it's a very powerful and like interesting experience, because it's something we don't experience in real life very often. But then experiencing like almost 100 people in the same room who all didn't have kids was like a whole nother level of like, oh my gosh, this is wild. So it was very cool. And a lot of people in both settings have said like, you know, I just was able to like breathe a little easier, and just knowing that like no one's going to ask if I had kids, or that like that wasn't going to come up was just, I think, such a relief to people. So it was very fun to experience.
Well, we will look forward to whenever you're ready to do another one. I can imagine that it takes a lot of work, but you know, in the meantime, I would encourage people to look into the Childless Collective and in Katy's group. It's just fantastic. How do people find you or the Childless Collective?
Yeah, thank you. So you can just go to childlesscollective.com is the website, and it has all the information there about the community and how to join. And then I haven't been on it as much lately, but I am on Instagram. It's kind of my favorite platform and the only one that I'm on outside of that. And that's just at Childless Collective too. So
at Childless Collective is your Instagram. Yeah, check out Katy's Instagram. You'll just see so many encouraging things and know you're not alone. And I'm one of those people out here who's trying to get that message across, and especially to obviously a group of women or people like me who are not in touch with what that grief is, and they're numbing. So, you know, just want everybody to know there's a place that you can go, the Childless Collective. And Katy, I just want to thank you so much for coming on. It's been an honor for me to meet you in person, and I'm just so grateful for the work that you do.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and for being a part of the online community, and for having this podcast, because it's such an important topic that you're covering. And I have no doubt it's helping a ton of people. So thank you for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Have you ever Googled, am I an alcoholic? Me too. And here's the thing, it's not a helpful question. Those quizzes just slap on a label. Yes, you are. No, you're not. But what if it's not about the label, and more about how drinking actually makes you feel? That's why I created Am I Drinking Too Much? It's the quiz I wish had existed when I was searching. No scare tactics, no rock bottom required. You'll get your results and a free guide that explains gray area drinking, plus 3 science-backed strategies to reduce or interrupt cravings. Take it at soberfitchick.com/MI. That's MI, as in, am I drinking too much? soberfitchick.com/MI.